Hi guys, coming at you with another build video. This time it's going to be a little different. I'm going to go from PvP, I'm going to go over to PvE. This was the build that I actually used to complete the raid most of the time. I'd say I have about 4 clears with this build, and I have about 2 clears with another build that I have using a steady hand LMG build for sustained damage. This one is mostly to survive, and it actually deals a good amount of damage as well, so let's get into it. Firstly, with the weapon, you got a military P416. It has Optimus, Allegro, and Transmission. A couple key points here. Optimus can be substituted out with whatever you want, whether it be measured, whether it be close and personal, whether it be Optimist. All of them have their highlights and their cons as well. Allegro, again, mandatory. I actually got lucky with this P4 because Transmission is actually really, really good because 2 of the bosses have shock mechanics, or actually 3 of the bosses have shock mechanics. So it actually prevents the shock, and it happens once every minute. And if you're getting hit by a shock mechanic more than once every minute, you're probably doing the raid wrong. Secondary, again, this is also up for debate. Nemesis, because it is just best in slot in my opinion. For PvE, you should be able to hit some headshots at least, I'd say 80 to 70% of the time, depending on your aim. This can also be substituted out with the Chatterbox as well. The Chatterbox is really good in the last boss, because you are able to kill a drone, reload really quickly because it's an AR, and then you have higher RPM for DPSing the boss phase. It also helps as well because you can switch to it if you run out of ammo per se and you need like that little bit more extra damage. You're able to switch to the Chatterbox, and it actually deals a good amount of damage because of its high RPM. For the sidearm, it's the same double barrel sawed-off, premeditated jazz hands, and protected reload. This is the ideal sidearm for pretty much any build that's running less than 4 electronics. And protected reload is my favorite holster talent for sidearms as well, because with an AR you are going to be reloading a lot, so you do get a lot of value out of that 10% bonus armor. Getting into the actual gear set itself, we have Douglas and Harding with crit chance, damage to elite, and centered. I actually really do like centered, especially for the raid, because you do have a lot of opportunities to get kills. And a lot of the time, there will be a EMP, and that EMP will screw up your healing. It'll screw up your timing with EMP pulse if you're using that strategy for the boss phase, especially with all the drones and stuff. Damage to elites, obviously, of course, for PvE. And then you have a Fenris chest piece, headshot damage, weapon damage, armor, unbreakable, and hard hitting. This is probably the best chest piece I found for PvE. And then, of course, you have your resilience mod to get the 11. Unbreakable on this build is actually kind of ridiculous. You are going to be restoring about 220, 210 armor. And it happens pretty quickly, actually, because the amount of armor that this has, as well as the survivalist medkit, other people healing you. This is a really good build if you just want to, say, forget the drones and just focus solely on DPSing the boss. You're able to just proc your Unbreakable, and then with your heals as well on top of it, it should take them a while to DPS you down. It also is really good when you are getting focused by the second bosses, the triad basically, because you're able to tank a lot of damage, you're able to do the switches, and you have Unbreakable if they do break your armor. Let's see. And then getting a Fenris holster, this is because it has 1 hard hitting, 2 it has a high health roll, and 3 because of the 2-piece Fenris. You do get a sorrowful damage, and you do get protection from elites, which is really valuable for the raid, because almost everything is elites. Then you get a Gilla. I'm actually using total armor percent. I know that total armor percent could be higher, which is why I haven't rolled anything on it. So you get the 5% armor, you get a pretty high armor roll, and then I have a 4% total armor on my mods. Yaw gloves, this is not necessary. You can roll a different set of gloves depending on your needs. I chose Yaw because it had health. It already had a sorrowful damage on it, but it was only 3%. So I decided to keep precise for the headshot damage because I do hit headshots most of the time in PvE. So I didn't really need the extra hard hitting. But you are more than welcome to put hard hitting on there if you don't want to go for headshot damage. Say if you're using like the Chatterbox variant and you don't want to do that. And then for the backpack, I would rather the health here, the health percent be armor percent, but I couldn't really get that. It was already a health roll for the backpack. So if I could change this backpack, I'd have armor percent, I'd ideally have a weapon damage here, so I don't have to use one of the mods, so I could get a higher weapon damage. And then you do want Safeguard, because you do get a lot of kills in PvE, and that extra healing is really nice, especially if you're running Survivalist Medkit, and if you have it while you have Unbreakable procced. Unbreakable will heal 100% of your armor rather than just 70. Hardened is pretty mandatory here, just to get higher armor to get more value out of the Unbreakable. However, if you do have a lot of armor from just rolls itself, say you want to be around 300, but if you have 300 without having Hardened, you can go another hard hitting here for more damage. And getting into the skills, these ones aren't really important, to be honest. You can run whatever playstyle you run. I use Chem Launcher and Revival Hive because typically we have other people running EMP Pulse. If you do want to and you don't find yourself dying as much, which you really shouldn't with this build, you can run EMP Pulse for the drones. You can run EMP Pulse for when Buddy shoots out his Seeker Mines. You can use it for when Lucy has her Seeker Mines out, or her mines out, not Seeker Mines. It's just an overall really useful talent, and for the raid. And then nade for PvE, I do like just a regular grenade, especially since I do run raid a lot. You can run survivalist nade for CCing if you know the spawn points. It's not super valuable, in my opinion. Most of the time your nades are going to be spent for either breaking Buddy's Seeker Mines when they spawn, or just shooting them out. So I would highly recommend just using the regular one if you're doing raid. If you're doing regular PvE, obviously you can just do whatever nade you want because it's not that big of an issue. Getting into the stats, I have, let's see, about 19.7, 19.5 for that. The crit chance is pretty negligible. It'll help every once in a while since you do shoot a lot with the 20 round mag. It has 80% headshot damage. Factoring in the Nemesis, it's going to have 105. Accuracy is not big of an issue. The Asari full damage and all weapon damage is actually fairly high, considering the amount of tankiness that this build has. Obviously, wouldn't have as much as a Clutch AR build, but it has way more safety built into the build. And so that's about it. I don't have any gameplay of it because I don't typically record PvE. When I stream, I typically just do solid PvP. I'll try and get some gameplay footage when we do our next run and to show you guys how it performs. But now that's it for the build. Hope you guys enjoy.